Do you work hard every day and still have nothing to show for it? Frustrating, isn't it? Maybe the mindset of Henry Ford is the answer you've been looking for. You will never run out of people chasing money. It's everywhere. In the late-night hustle videos, the get-rich-quick webinars, the endless books promising financial freedom. But here's what no one tells you. Chasing money is exactly what keeps you broke. You don't need more tactics. You don't need another YouTube strategy. What you need is a daily ritual so powerful, so quietly effective, that it's almost impossible not to get rich over time. But almost no one commits to it, and I'll show you why in a minute. Most people think they're doing the right things, saving a little here, working extra hours there, maybe even throwing some cash into stocks or crypto. But they're missing the only thing that actually builds wealth consistently. And the tragic part? By the time they realize it, they've already wasted years. There's something you're likely overlooking every single day. Something that, once you understand, will completely change how you see money, time, and effort. But we're not there yet. Right now, I want you to ask yourself one brutal question. If I keep living exactly like I did yesterday, where will I be 5 years from now? Be honest. Because the truth is, your future is already happening. It's just delayed. And there's one small daily habit that determines whether you'll wake up wealthy or wake up too late. I'll break it down soon, but first, you need to meet someone who thought just like you. Until he didn't. Jason is 34, works in tech, pays his bills on time, has no flashy car, no reckless spending, no visible debt. From the outside, he's doing everything right. He reads about financial freedom, listens to podcasts during his commute, even tracks his expenses religiously. But at the end of each month, he's still stuck, still waiting for that breakthrough, still telling himself, I just need a little more time. But time is the very thing he's quietly losing. And there's something he doesn't see yet. Something most people never do until it's too late. He wakes up early, tries to stay productive, keeps telling himself this is the season of grinding. But deep down, there's a growing tension. He looks at his bank account and wonders, why does this feel like I'm running in place? And here's the part that quietly destroys people like Jason. He assumes that effort equals progress. That if he just keeps going, something will eventually change. But not all effort is created equal. Not all motion leads to movement. And Jason's biggest problem isn't what he's doing. It's what he's not doing every single day. There's one habit that could have changed everything for him. A ritual so small it feels insignificant, until it compounds into something unstoppable. But Jason dismissed it, thought it was too basic, thought it couldn't possibly make a difference. And he's not alone. Most people overlook it because it doesn't feel urgent. But there's a detail in Jason's routine, a missing piece that quietly costs him a fortune over time. We'll come back to it. First, we need to understand the trap that even smart, hard-working people keep falling into. Jason's failure isn't dramatic, it's subtle. That's what makes it so dangerous. He doesn't make reckless purchases or quit his job out of frustration. He just repeats the same pattern every day. Wake up, work, consume, repeat. And the mistake isn't in what he does. It's in what he never built, a personal wealth ritual. Not a morning routine, not a vision board, a real, measurable daily action that compounds quietly while the world's distracted. Almost nobody talks about this. And when they do, they oversimplify it into cliches like invest in yourself or build habits. But there's a cost to ignoring this one thing. and it's much higher than people think. Here's what most people miss. Wealth doesn't come from effort alone. It comes from intentional repetition of leveraged actions. Jason thought that big wins, a raise, a side gig, a lucky investment, would change everything. But wealth never arrives in big wins. It hides inside small, consistent moves that are easy to skip because they don't scream for attention. That's why most people never get rich. They're not lazy. They're blind to what actually works. And the tragedy? By the time they realize it, the compound damage has already set in. Lost time, lost growth, lost opportunities. And they can't get it back. And here's where it gets worse. The longer you delay, the harder it becomes to start. Not because the habit itself is hard, but because your mind will keep telling you that it's too late, too small, or too uncertain to matter. This is the trap that quietly buries millions. But there's a way out, and it starts with understanding what this daily ritual really is. We'll get to that in a second. But first, let me show you what happens when someone else, with the same paycheck, same hours, same brain, makes a different choice. There's a reason the wealthiest people in the world obsess over daily actions. Not goals, not motivation, actions. The kind that compound quietly over time while others are distracted by noise. And it's not just about saving or budgeting. It's about what Naval Ravikant calls leveraged activities, things that once set in motion, create value far beyond the time you spent doing them. Reading one page won't change your life, but reading 10 pages a day for a year, that's 15 books. And one of those books might plant the exact idea that creates your breakthrough. But it doesn't happen if you stop on day 4, or skip when you're tired. This is what Jason never understood. He waited for moments of clarity, motivation, opportunity. Mike, his co-worker with the same salary, built a ritual instead. Every day, Mike did one small thing that moved his financial engine forward. He automated a $10 investment. He tracked one spending behavior. He wrote down one idea to monetize. Each task seemed meaningless in isolation, but stacked together, they became a snowball of competence, awareness, and leverage. It wasn't exciting, it was consistent, and that's exactly why it worked. Think of it like this: compound interest doesn't just apply to money, it applies to attention, knowledge, action. Every skipped day is interest you never earned. Every consistent day is a seed you've planted, even if it takes months to grow. But there's a twist most people don't see. You can be doing the right thing and still be doing it wrong, because not all rituals have leverage. Not all repetition creates value. So the real question is, are you repeating what scales, or just repeating what feels safe? We'll break that down in the next few minutes. But before that, let's look at how this difference played out, brutally, between Jason and Mike over a decade. 10 years passed. Same city, same job title, same starting salary. But their lives couldn't be more different. Jason, now 44, is still renting, still anxious about his 401k, still scrolling through finance TikToks, hoping for the one tip that finally clicks. Meanwhile, Mike owns 2 rental properties, earns passive income from a small course he built 5 years ago, and quietly reinvests the profits from his dividend portfolio. He didn't win the lottery. He didn't sell a startup. He simply did the same 3 leveraged actions every day, while Jason kept waiting for the perfect moment. This is where most people miss the point. Wealth isn't just about what you earn, it's about what you build. And Jason built nothing, not because he wasn't smart, but because he kept restarting. A new strategy every month, a new book, new goal, new plan. He was addicted to beginnings, and allergic to consistency. Mike, on the other hand, bet on boredom. He repeated what worked, ignored the noise, and stayed on the same path long enough for it to bear fruit. And the difference? Compound interest. Not just in his bank account, but in his mindset, relationships, and opportunities. But here's the part that stings. Jason never realized the moment he fell behind. There was no warning, no red flag, just tiny daily missed chances that slowly widened the gap until it became irreversible. That's the silent cost of delay. You don't feel it until it's too late. And you start saying things like, "If only I had started earlier." But what if you're there right now? What if you're at the last possible moment before the window starts to close? There's a belief buried deep in Jason's story that sabotages thousands like him. We're about to expose it, because if you don't destroy this belief, no strategy will ever work. There's a belief most people never say out loud, but live by every day. As long as I'm busy, I'm progressing. It sounds reasonable, feels productive, but it's the biggest lie keeping you broke. Jason believed it too. He filled his days with tasks, emails, small wins, but none of it built anything that lasted. He was functioning, not building. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The world rewards builders, not busy people. If your actions don't stack into something bigger, they're just motion disguised as progress. But most don't notice until years have passed, and the weight of time becomes too heavy to reverse. Mike wasn't faster. He was just focused. He understood something most people ignore, that every day is either a deposit into your future or a withdrawal from your potential. There is no neutral. You are either building leverage or drifting. That's why consistency matters more than intensity. 1 hour of deep, leveraged work a day beats 100 hours of scattered effort. But this idea only clicks when you ask one question. If I did this daily for 5 years, what would it become? Most people can't answer that, and that's why they stay stuck. Even Henry Ford, long before automation and mass production, understood this deeply. He once said, "Most people get ahead during the time that others waste." It's not about grinding harder. It's about being the kind of person who builds while others consume. But there's one silent belief still holding you back. A belief so subtle, it blends into your thinking. It tells you success is out there, in some distant future, when everything aligns. But what if the only thing missing is a daily ritual that brings the future closer, one boring, powerful day at a time? We'll make that concrete in a moment. But first, let's talk about how to build that ritual right now. Here's the truth nobody wants to hear. You don't need a radical plan. You need a repeatable system. And it starts with 15 minutes. Not for scrolling, not for reacting, but for building. The most powerful wealth habit isn't complicated. It's deliberate. Pick one leveraged activity, investing, learning, creating, and do it every single day without negotiation. That's it. But here's the part most people miss. The goal isn't perfection. It's momentum. Because momentum compounds, even when you can't see it. Start with this. Set aside 15 minutes at the same time every day. No distractions. No multitasking. Use it to invest a small amount, review one financial insight, create something that can be monetized. Track it. Not for dopamine, but for direction. After 30 days, look back. What felt effortless? What created value? Double down on that. Over time, your focus sharpens. Your confidence grows. And you begin to separate from the crowd. Not because you worked harder, but because you worked with clarity. This habit isn't sexy. It won't go viral. But it builds the foundation no one sees until they ask how you got so lucky. It's not luck, it's design. And the longer you wait to start, the more expensive the delay becomes. Most people never build this rhythm. They wait for more time, more energy, more certainty. But they never realize waiting is the most costly decision they'll ever make. There's one last thing to understand, and it's the reason why some people change and others don't. We'll close with that. And it's not what you think. Jason never lacked potential. He lacked a pattern. He kept waiting for something to happen, a sign, a lucky break, a moment of readiness. But that moment never came, because it doesn't. No one wakes up rich. No one stumbles into freedom. It's always built, slowly, silently, daily. The difference between Jason and Mike wasn't talent. It was that Mike made a choice, and Jason kept postponing his. But here's what most people miss. Not choosing is still a choice. And every day you delay, the gap widens. You think you're playing it safe by waiting. You're not. You're losing. Quietly. Slowly. And that loss compounds just like wealth does, only in the wrong direction. The life you think you'll start building someday has an expiration date. And if you're still watching this, deep down, you already know that. You've wasted enough time trying to figure it all out before starting. Now it's about movement, even if it's small, especially if it's small. Because the ritual you start today might be the only thing standing between you and the version of you that finally escapes the cycle. So here's the final truth. If you watched this far, you already think differently. Most people don't even get here. They click away, distracted, convinced that they'll find something easier, faster, shinier. But you didn't. You stayed. That means you're ready, or close. Maybe you won't change everything in a day, but if you build that one daily ritual, if you commit to one small action every day that stacks, it's not a question of if you'll get rich. It's only a question of when. Comment "I start today" if you're done waiting, and send this to someone who still is. Before they wake up, too late. If you're serious about building wealth, don't stop here. You won't understand how money really works unless you watch the next video. Click it now, or stay confused forever.